But let's see what they're talking about. Okay.
Of leadership will be successful.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that
This guy may be
biologics
alien
have been
himself.
recovered. Again, my
Who
focus
knows?
was more nuts and bolts, looking at the
I wish they
physical
would-
aspects, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities.
Look at that guy's
So
ear.
I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you
I wonder
a
if they,
whole
like,
lot of
grew like that or if
value
it's an
in that
injury or
sense,
what.
because I don't have the expertise.
It's a nice tie.
Was anything described as that we
It kinda
have
looks like
possession of
a
bodies?
Yes, yes.
Bandana.
sir.
Bandana a little.
Is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that.
Wait, so they found
I can tell you
creatures?
anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time, in fact, before I was even born.
And was this part of the Lockheed Martin
What do you
discussion,
guys
or
think?
was
Do you
this
think-
the biologics is a completely separate?
You think so? You
Separate,
guys think
yet
that
related.
aliens are real?
Okay. Has any?
I'm a big believer in aliens. I think the practicality of them being like flesh, I just thought it was just low, you know. But I definitely believe that stuff. I thought like maybe they would be more like dimensional, but
Problem is you also have nonverbal communication, and so I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent and capability. I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed over controlled U.S. airspace, and they're not really doing a good job hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
what?
Is the United States government and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? They're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, and please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about, and that was my limit, unfortunately, that I was given.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I would like to recognize Mr. Timmons for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, you just said something interesting. You said they don't seem to be hiding. They don't seem to be hiding. The UAP sightings are becoming increasingly brash.
My whole thing about this type of stuff was I was under the impression that if aliens were here, it would be very obvious, or you would never ever know at all. You get what I mean?
Critical military installations.
Like I feel like they would be
would you
so
say that's
hard to
fair?
find
Is
if
this
they were
becoming
like crazy like that.
Often, is it
They would
happening
transcend the cosmos.
more and more?
Great question, sir. Let me see if I can answer this for you. Certainly, there seems to be some indication that they're being provocative, meaning that they're, in some cases, literally splitting aircraft formations right down the middle.
What?
So that's an air safety issue. The question is it the frequency increasing? And really the response is it depends. Yes, it's possible that there is an increase in frequency, but it's also possible that there's heightened awareness now, and there's also more pervasiveness of technology out there that's collecting this information and that can record this information. So we're not quite sure yet if it's actually an increase in numbers of these events, or is it that we have better equipment now that to record
So do
these
the
things,
aliens
and
know who I am?
We
Do they
have
know my
a
name?
better ability, if you will, to analyze these things.
And that's my next question. It seems that a lot of these sightings occur near military installations. Do you think that these UAPs are intentionally targeting military installations, or do you think that we have increased abilities to monitor surrounding the military installations?
Sir, maybe both. Part of my concern is
I think that makes
we have
sense.
something in the Department of Defense
It
and
could
the
be
intelligence
that it's not that
community called IPB, Initial Preparations of the Battle Space.
it's not that
And we use
the
equities
radars
like
are picking
ISR,
up on things, but they've
surveillance,
just gotten so
reconnaissance,
good
other type of equities and
that they're picking
technologies
up on everything.
to prep the battle space. And certainly, if I was wearing my national security hat, even if there was a 2% chance that there was some sort of hostile intent here, that's 2% higher than we really can accept. And so we must figure out, there's a calculus, capabilities versus intent, in order to identify if something is a national security threat. We've seen some of the capabilities, yet we have no idea the intent. And so this is why this discussion is somewhat, I think, problematic from a governmental perspective, because we have no idea.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Schellenberger, you're particularly familiar with the Langley Air Force Base incident a year ago? Are you familiar?
Just from what I read in the
Just
news.
from what you've read?
Yeah.
I would imagine a large percentage of the American population became aware of that with the Wall Street Journal article. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And were you aware of that incident prior to the Wall Street Journal article?
No.
To the rest of the panel, was the Wall Street Journal article the first time that y'all were made aware of what was essentially an over 2-week UAP frenzy over Langley Air Force Base? Were y'all aware of this prior to the Wall Street Journal article? Anybody? Show
Bro, I swear, are these guys not the real aliens? I swear these guys are the aliens. Like, what about the
how did you become
reptilian
aware of it?
people?
You
know,
a colleague of mine who I referenced previously, Chris Mellon, he wrote an
It's gotta be
extensive article
reptilian
about
people.
this, that there were other incursions of drones over Langley before this, as well
What do you
as
guys think?
many military installations over the
Yeah,
last
you
5
think
decades.
aliens are real? I think they're
And
real.
It's my understanding that there's been an ever increasing in number.
Let me move this over here.
Trying to think how to say this because I wear two different hats. I'm still in the Air Force.
Right.
So, I mean, it seems that they're becoming increasingly brash. And the question that we really have to figure out is it China or is it non-human? And I think that's the biggest question the American people want to know. If it's China, it's scary because they have a lot of technology that we cannot explain. And if it's non-human, that's scary because we don't know the intent. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, Congressman, and in fact, I really believe that we should use this hearing as a catalyst to improve and bolster our air defense capabilities and our maritime domain awareness capabilities, because obviously there are holes in it, whether it be UAP of non-HI direction or NHI direction, or, like as you say, sir, China or any other adversary.
Are you all aware of any task force at the Pentagon or in the national security apparatus that's trying to assess the answer to that question?
At the current moment, sir, no, but this is a great point. From 2020 to 2022, there was a UAP task force in the DoD succeeding where Mr. Elizondo worked, led by Jay Stratton, who had the first comprehensive whole-of-government approach to UAP, which involved pathways to declassification and to increase transparency, as well as assessing the national security risks of UAP. This was a really well-established approach, and we have all advocated that something like it return.
I'm running out of time. The last thing is that we need authorities. The law enforcement, military do not have authorities to actually engage, and Congress needs to act to give those authorities to local law enforcement and the military so they have clear guidelines on how to assess these issues going forward. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Ms. Boebert for 5
I
minutes.
mean, with all this type of stuff, like there can always be those regulatory hearings and awnings of, oh, are these real? Are the aliens actually here? Are they interdimensional, etc.? I think my whole premise, and maybe this is just a little bit more mediocre brain. Obviously, these people have a lot more evidence of information than me, but I was just thought like if we did, at least locally, it would probably be either we would never find them or it's single cellular like little life, right? But then I guess you kind of do have to think about the commonality of the ingredients of the universe. It's all the same shit, just like in different forms. So, okay, you know, this whole planet's made of rock, iron, this whole planet's made of nickel, this whole planet's made of gas, and this whole planet's made of water, right? All these different planets, right? And I'm not talking about just locally in our solar system, but I'm just really talking about like our galaxy in general. So all these combinations just kind of run off of like a probability of like, what is the perfect specific habits for us to get a golden habitable zone, right? How far is the sun from this? Does it have a moon to cool off? Does it have tides for naturality? Like, so I can understand that. And we only know like the bit of sustainable life is our interpretation, which is, you know, vegetation, stuff like that, etc. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, okay, maybe since like, cause think about it. We have different life forms on Earth. Like plant life, like, okay, let's say we never had plants, right? What would you guess? You would never even begin to even think to guess that plants existed. You get what I mean? Like if there are only humans and animals on the Earth, you wouldn't even think of what you couldn't even conceive or think of what a fucking plant is or looks like. You would just have to imagine it, right? Because it's so far from your autonomy. Right? Like animals are animals, but plants are like their own kingdom, but they're technically alive. They have their own temporal dimension of how they operate. They move very slowly. They experience their own temporal dimension of time and space. So when we're talking about other aliens, what we consider, I feel like locally we'd have to have some weird interaction with them at some degree that we probably don't even realize that we have to understand, or we can't even conceive of them, or we haven't even thought to begin of thinking of them, possibly. But the ones that they're talking about, which are like UAPs that are near us and they're in these spaceships and stuff like that, which that just seems so comical. And that's what's kind of like turning me off. Is like, why is it so comical? Like they do it in the movies all the time. Like maybe the movies were telling us the truth, you know, hidden right in our faces, but I just find that so maniacal. And so the dimensionality of the aliens existing kind of makes sense when you think about us just being fourth dimensional and third dimensional beings. I can understand that the light projection is kind of where we exist as aliens. You get what I mean? But other stuff is very it's very nuanced and has I think it doesn't have much validity beyond confirmation bias.
It's actually been studied in detail by man, and we've studied more of space than we had of our own oceans. And so are there any accounts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface?
I don't know about a base, but, you know, as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely.
That's my whole thought process on it as well. That's what I also thought. Like, I always thought if they're like, look in the sky, the aliens are in the sky. My whole thought process goes, don't look in the sky, look underground. Always do the opposite of what they tell you. Because a lot of the times that's the real sauce. The aliens are probably under fucking ground, bro. They're probably underwater or some shit. They're somewhere where they're not gonna be out in the sky. If I'm trying to hide, why would I be out in the sky if I'm trying to hide? I'm gonna be near you. I'm gonna be in plain sight or underground or some shit, somewhere you're never gonna look.
Particularly, have you spoken with sources who have provided any evidence or eyewitness accounts of these UAPs interacting with our naval forces or being detected by our underwater surveillance systems?
Nothing beyond what's in the report and then the specific case that I mentioned with the orb.
So this report says it all. There's no other information that we are aware of regarding the activity within our waters.
I have other sources that have told me that have shared a significant amount of information, but they're not comfortable with me sharing it at this point.
Okay. Are there any technological capabilities observed in these oceanic UAPs that seem to defy our current understanding of physics or our engineering capabilities?
Halo God.
Seems like they all do.
Yes,
Appreciate
I would
the follow.
agree with that. My time is up, but I do appreciate your bravery, your courage for coming here and speaking today. And it seems like there's still some questions that we need answers to, and we will not relent until we get those to the American people. Thank you all.
Thank you. I move to allow myself and the ranking member 5 additional minutes for questions without objection, so ordered.
I know this lady.
Mr. Elizondo, were you read into the Immaculate Constellation?
Look her eyes, look her eyes.
I would not be authorized to confirm nor deny the existence of any ongoing or past program, especially as it relates to a special access program, either by name or trigraph.
Okay, and then does the U.S. government or private contractors, do they work with other foreign countries, China, for example, to exchange data, quote from a source, that intelligence data about UAP?
Let me see if I can answer that a little bit more generally, ma'am.
Bro, her eyes are
we do
insane,
have
bro.
foreign material exploitation programs. That is something that is widely known, and that term itself is unclassified. How exactly that works becomes a bit sensitive. The discussion we could certainly have in a closed session if you like. We do work with international partners and allies quite often, not just in military exercises and workups, but in other intelligence efforts as well.
In terms of material that's given to private contractors, is certain material given to certain contractors because of their experience? So, for example, if it's related to submerged and undersea propulsion, would it go to a general contractor like General Dynamics?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely correct. Different contractors have different levels of expertise.
What's Lockheed's expertise?
Aerospace, ma'am.
In the UAP space, that's all that they wouldn't do submerged.
No, I didn't say that, ma'am.
Okay.
Lockheed Martin and others do quite a bit of work both in our atmosphere, in space, and even underwater. There are certain efforts to. It's a tough question you're asking. You put me on the spot here.
I'm looking for the answer.
Yes, ma'am. No, they
he
are
nervous
involved in a
talking to
lot.
her?
I would rather let Lockheed Martin explain the different domains that they are involved with. Probably
He's got a
not authorized to
crush.
discuss that, but they are involved in a lot of
Honestly, I'd be
different
nervous
areas
to
and
look at her.
domains.
Admiral, flight safety risks for our pilots, based on what you've experienced and seen in your career.
They're extensive, and the one exercise I referred to where I received the email that was then deleted was the pilots, and this is worth bringing out. There are debunkers out there who have said the Go Fast video was just a balloon. That was only one video that was released. There were dozens of these encounters that pilots, friends of Ryan Graves, who's in this room right here, witnessed and caused significant safety concerns. And to almost call out an exercise and shut it down, which is very compressed, and the carrier's getting ready for deployment, and the pilots have to get certified to land on a carrier, it's extreme, to say the least.
All right, I have two last questions. Real quickly, Mr. Schellenberger, how do we get more whistleblowers to come forward?
Well, this hearing does, is very important, and obviously, I can't encourage whistleblowers to obtain information, but
why
I
would they
can
not? Are they getting held by
guarantee that I
gunpoint
will
by
protect
the
them and go to
aliens?
prison to protect their identities.
Ooh, look at her.
If they
Okay.
come to me.
Yes, sir. Okay, my last question. The first hearing we had on this, I'd never briefed on UAPs or what they were, biologics, non-human, et cetera. How would you define, each of you, my last question, how would you define non-human biologics, non-human intelligence? What are we actually talking about? Admiral, and we'll go down the line.
I don't think it's a stretch when you look at the diversity of life on this planet and the size of this universe to think that there would be more diverse, higher order, non-human intelligences throughout the universe. And that's probably what's visiting us.
Right.
I would take the scientific approach. The definition would be the ability to react to a stimulus in a manner that requires an intellectual thought process.
I just don't know.
I think we must be modest in our assumptions that we're
I
looking
just
for
don't
intelligence
know.
that could be biological. It might
Okay.
not.
Why is that guy there?
Non-biological, but what non-biological intelligence, what does that mean, though?
Artificial intelligence, ML, machines. We assume that all intelligence would be like us. And every time we look out in the universe, we are humbled relative to what we don't know in terms of the forms of intelligence and what it may take.
Right, that's what
I
I'm
can
getting
assure you,
at
I probably
before.
can't ask
Like,
you your
I'm saying, think about it, right? Because I have plants over here that I'm looking at. I don't think I would be able, if I never knew what plants look like, I don't think I would be able to think about what a plant looks like. You get what I mean? Like, I don't think I would be able to imagine it because it's so abstract of an idea or thought. I feel like I can only come up with like let's say I didn't know what plants were. If I did try to come up with them, I would think maybe they're like maybe they're blue colored, right? So like in my head, imagining it, okay, I imagine a fucking vine, but it's blue. You get what I mean? So I would never really know the understanding of what I'm looking at or trying to interpret because it's so out of my recollection of expertise or imagination, right? So like trying to imagine it, like, what do you mean? What I'm thinking is, are they saying that the outer dimensionality is that these aliens are like, they're like emotions, they're like light, they're like iridescent, and they affect us in some way, or they can transverse outside of space and time through light travel or some shit like that? Like, I don't understand.
for all of you to be here. So with that, I yield back.
Okay,
what would
and
their
we have
autonomy
Mr.
look
Ogles,
like?
who is on the way. He's going to be here any second. Is that correct?
Like, what would they
check
their
in? He'll be the
build?
last,
Like,
last
if they could just
member
be
with
walking down the street,
questions that we have today, and
or
then
if
we're
you
going
could
to
just stare
get
at
votes.
him,
So we want to
what
thank you all
the
for being
crust
here.
does this
I
alien
want to
look like,
thank
bro?
Mr. Garcia and folks on both sides of the aisle for being here today and being patient. We have a lot more questions,
Okay.
and I hope that this will open the door to more hearings in the future. I obviously would like to know how much taxpayers are spending on this. You have the right to know. But also, if we're spending money on something that doesn't exist, why are we spending the money? And if it doesn't, if it does exist, why are we hiding it from the public?
Right.
And of course, our national security is a huge issue because if there's technology that could harm us or our allies that are in the hands of our adversaries, we obviously want to stay ahead of that to the best of our ability to ensure that that technology is not in the hands of someone who could use it against us or our allies anywhere in the world. So, Mr. Ogles, you're just in time, babe. I will recognize you for 5 minutes of questioning before we head on out today.
Got you.
Well, thank you all for being here. And Madam Chairwoman, I'm out of breath because I sprinted to get here. But this is an important hearing. I think we all know that there's something going on. Mr. Elizondo, based on your knowledge of UAP sightings, do you believe it's fair to say that they are especially common near nuclear sites?
Yes, sir. Mr. Congressman, I absolutely am convinced of that, as are my colleagues inside the government.
And the reason why I pose that question, and this has been one of my talking points from the beginning, is, Oak Ridge is in Tennessee. the so-called weather balloon that drifted, that we now know was controlled, it passed near Oak Ridge. It obviously is a sensitive site, both of interest to our adversaries and to whatever else this is. Because we know that at military installations, at sensitive locations, such as nuclear facilities, that we're seeing this take place. So the question is, what is it? Do you believe they've caused an irregular activity, and why might they be interested in those sites?
Sir, in some cases, it's actually regular activity. You'd be surprised. There's actually documentation right now that's been submitted. It's not just Oak Ridge. It's Savannah River site, SRS. It's also Los Alamos. A lot of our sensitive R&D locations appear to be under some sort of surveillance and monitoring. Why? Well, because a lot of innovation comes out of those areas, a lot of new technologies, a lot of if you will, disruptive technologies that we use for our national defense originates out of those locations and advanced concepts in physics as well. So if I was doing any type of reconnaissance, even on a foreign adversary, that's a great target to start with.
If they're basically fishing aliens,
again,
like
this has been one of my talking points.
They would have to find what baits them, what attracts them.
What role might the Department of Energy or its subsidiaries or affiliates have in this type of technology? Or possessing this type of technology, whether it's ours or others. Mr. Gallaudet, I think your testimony has been pretty clear, but would you please reiterate that do you believe UAPs pose a threat to pilots? Excuse me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. They were threatening Navy pilots during the exercise that I was, my people were involved with in 2015, and it's my understanding they're risking pilot safety, commercial and military today.
Well, considering, and I understand that there's a need in some cases to keep certain technologies secret, but you believe that it is posing a threat to our personnel, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I think it's reasonable to conclude that if there's a threat to our personnel who are serving our country faithfully, that there be oversight.
100%, Congressman. And in fact, that's the one thing that we've not talked about enough during this hearing is the fact that the government executive branch not sharing with Congress what it knows about UAP infringes on your legislative and oversight responsibilities to such an extent that's very concerning. I mean, what else are we, if you look at national security or intelligence or foreign affairs or appropriations, you all have oversight and legislative responsibility regarding those. This UAP issue may be the greatest issue of our time, and it's being hit from you.
Well, I mean, and to your point, I think we've seen over the decades that we have certain adversaries like China, like Russia, that technologically speaking are not as advanced as us, that they lack some of the lethality that we have, and that we've seen that they've gone after our technologies and in some cases succeeded, in particular with missile technology. And so, again, my concern, whether this technology emanates from us or otherworldly, that we know that we possess it. And where's the accountability? Where are the stopgaps? What are the guarantees that if this were to fall in enemy hands, that it isn't immediately weaponized against us? And I'll say this, it is clear from my experience and what I've seen that there is something out there. The question is it ours? Is it someone else's? Or is it otherworldly? And Madam Chairman, I would posit that as the legislative body, as the regulatory body, we must know. And anyone who prevents us from gaining access to that information, I would consider that criminality. Because we have U.S. personnel who may very well be in harm's way. We have technology that ultimately may threaten our very existence.
Accomplished in the military, in civilian government, in science, and in journalism. Some of the testimony you will hear them deliver today does not.
Well, I think that aliens are definitely real. Don't know how much I can say about. I guess I want to say their presentation of it. They're saying that in some ways the alien life is artificial. Intelligence, like the alien life, are the UAPs, maybe. I think that's what I'm trying to say, but I don't know how that would work. Because how could the autonomy fix itself? Don't know. I think a lot of this stuff comes off of just a probability, right? What's the probability of a UAP? What's the probability of whatever the fuck, right? So that's kind of my mindset on all this type of stuff, or at least when it comes to that type of thing. But when I say that, I say this because my interest is understanding what's even identified. How can I figure out what to identify if I've never understood what it is that I'm trying to think of? I guess my best case to do that is to present, I guess, a theory of what is it that the thing I think needs does. So if I've never seen a plant before ever in my life, and I wanted to figure out what does it do or need to do what it wants, I would have to figure out what it needs. I would have to do like an inverse operation of what I intuitively think that it believes it needs to do in order to survive, succeed, or exist. So not knowing what a plant looks like, I could go, my imaginary alien is it doesn't move, or it moves slower than me, or maybe so fast than me that it's invisible. Maybe that's it. Maybe the aliens are so fast that they're invisible, and they're transcending dimensionality between our universe and multiple universes. Maybe just like a vibration, like it's vibrating so fast or spinning so fast that it disappears. Because it's similar to like my thought process on the anti-de Sitter space decoupled effect theory, where this sort of actionary thing is the universe is spinning and it's spinning and spinning so much it creates a two-dimensionality that the space itself can't contain it. So the same thing with third dimensional matter. If it can vibrate fast enough, maybe it can turn invisible, or maybe if it can spin enough, it can cloak itself, spin fast enough. But looking at a plant compared to a plant moves so slow. What does a plant need? A plant needs sunlight, water, air, and that's pretty much it, and like good soil. But I don't need that. My autonomy, or I need water. I do need sunlight. I do need air, but I don't need to be in the ground. A plant needs a ground to be on. So its own kingdom resides in its terrain. My terrain is I have been given autonomy to exist just in the area. For aquatic life, they need water. They can't be without the water. For bird life, they occupy the air and land. So you got birds, air animals, land, and land. Birds are land and air, but land and air are kind of technically the same thing, but we'll give them air as well. Okay, land and air, and those are Venn diagrammic. And sea life is just sea and some land. There's sea, some land, but more so lower land, but they don't need that land. And plant life is sea and land. So plant life can do sea and land. They can do those two. That's our commonality of terrain area that we can reside in as beings. So now, what can a species that doesn't need any of those, or maybe they do, what would they do to occupy an area? What we have is that these things are presented in the air. UAPs. Was it unidentified aerial phenomena? So they're in the air. And this person said that these things could be AI or machinery, which is interesting. I don't know about that. But let's say, okay, what is this biological aliens interpretation of our world? What do they do? Are they biological? Are they silicone based? Are they quantum based? What do they do? And I think about it, and I think the only commonality would have to be how they say out of space and time. So their existence is in iridescence. They have the iridescent field. We have this plane. They have iridescence, meaning light. But how do they actually, no, I'm not going to say how do they eat. What does that thing need? Or what? See, this is the thing with science. You don't even be knowing what the question is to ask. What does an iridescent UAP attributes its time and effort for? What does it think it needs? What does it think it wants? Does it want humans? Does it want resources? does it want to just be there? And so in relation to us, I say we consume plants. Plants don't consume us. In some ways, we are over plants. We are more powerful than plants. But flying dinosaurs and birds can eat us, when they were alive. So our autonomy is over prey or predator. Are they our prey or are they predator? I'm going to assume predator, right? So what can they do that affects us in a way that allows us to be the plants that they eat? Is it our energy? Is it the light that we shine? Our neurons? What power does that thing need or have over us? I'm thinking maybe human consciousness or something of that. Something where like our emotions, maybe they get attached to and they feast off of our emotions, or our fears, our happiness or something, or maybe the light we show or something like that. That's what I'm thinking. Or maybe they're just observing. Maybe aliens are just chilling about. They're like, what's good with it, bro? It's a very interesting conversation. Oh my God. And it's weird that they're bringing this up now, even though we do have Epstein files that we should probably be looking at, but whatever. UFO hearing. So